This white shirt looks like
Hello.
Hi.
We're live. We're live on Facebook and Instagram and Gwen's Facebook and let's see, YouTube and all sorts of things. So hopefully this is all working well for everybody. Oh, you know what? I have to create a new Instagram stream, it says. So let me go do that. We'll just keep going here for a minute, but I should have remembered that.
Where's Peter when we need
that's
him,
okay.
right?
Oh, no, I got it. Okay. I know how to do it. Peter is here, believe it or not. Oh,
I remember in our early days, we would call on Peter for things like that.
Oh, I know. Now I'm better at it, though, isn't it?
You amaze me.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I'm going to copy this stream key and I'm going to put it over where it needs to go. And we're going to be all in here, I think. Okay. Oops. I almost ended the whole thing. That wouldn't have been cool. All right. So let's add that here. This is the problem. I'm forgetting how we do things. Oh, I have to re-add it. Well, we're removing and we're re-adding. But then the nice thing is it gives some people some time to maybe come on, right?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Save changes. I think we're all good now. So now we're live on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, everywhere. So I think I've got to start out by just saying thank you to people. So, when we did, so this is now episode 308. And when we did episode 300, just 8 weeks ago, we kind of came up with this new idea that maybe people might want to sponsor an episode. And you can sponsor an episode and pay $125 to sponsor an episode, either the one that you're going to be on or one just in memory of your child or whatever. And I've just had some really wonderful feedback from that. I love just that. Have been blown away by this. So I've had several, and for regular listeners, you've noticed that most weeks, not every week, but most weeks in these past few weeks, we've had a sponsor, someone that has paid, donated $125 to the website and been a sponsor for the episode in their child's memory. And we, we'll talk about that a little bit in the episode, just in the introduction, just briefly. And it varies. Some of them are people that were on, some were on long, long ago, like many, many years ago. Some have been contacting me for a long time, but haven't yet felt ready to share their story, but would like to donate and have their child's name mentioned briefly at the beginning. So because of that, this live stream is actually happening again.
That is so awesome.
Because, what was it? 6 months or a year ago, I said, I just can't afford this. I mean, they increased the price of the live streaming and we just couldn't. I mean, Eric and I obviously budget a certain amount of money to the podcast and are happy to donate that. But it was getting that it just was not realistic to pay that. But now with these donations, it suddenly became more reasonable to do this and to be able to expand a little bit. And I think we're going to expand even a little bit more. So Gwen's got a few social media platforms. And right now we just go on her Facebook one, but I think we'll be able to expand that out a little bit. Anyway, I really am looking forward to it. And I'm really thankful to listeners who kind of answered the call, so to speak.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of, Marcy, is it reminds me of support group. And the reason I'm going to say that is because people don't know about support group and they're nervous about going. But when they go, and even if you're not in a support group, but you bravely tell someone else what you're struggling with, and then they can say, me too, or that's so normal, or, oh, yes, that happened to me. And all of a sudden you go, oh, feels so good to not be alone. you and Eric for a long time have carried that, financial responsibility. And then when you finally just said, hey, we had to try something else and you were vulnerable, then people
Yeah.
said, hey, we'll do that. Like that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I just really appreciate it. And I did feel really bad that when we had to give up the live stream portion, because I really liked doing it like this with you. And we tried to kind of muddle through doing some Facebook Live things, but the audio was terrible. And, we couldn't do more than one platform. And then we were trying to schedule to have either you or me travel. And this just makes a lot more sense and is so much better for us. So I really am just tickled that happened. And that being said, today I'm going to talk about two different sponsors. So we have, most weeks we just have one sponsor and it's just mentioned very briefly in the introduction. And so next week, as a little bit of a sneak peek, next week we have Logan and Michael's mom. So Lori lost two of her sons, Michael, and then many years later, Logan. And she is she's telling her story on the podcast next week. And after she started listening, I think she realized, oh, I could have donated $125 and sponsored my episode. But I already had a sponsor for next week's episode. And that, again, a little bit of a sneak peek, that is in memory of Garrett. And Archie has been on the podcast before, and the release date is August 14th, which is exactly the anniversary of Garrett's death. And so it felt right to honor Garrett that day. And so now I told Lori that Logan and Michael are just kind of getting 2 weeks because we're going to talk about them briefly here and then know that next week that is coming as well. So we've got that as a thing. And then I also wanted to mention one other person, and I think officially they'll be sponsoring an episode next month, but it actually makes a whole lot more sense to talk about them here. And I need to pull up this email. I should have been more organized to have this in here, but I know I'll just be able to get it just easily. Yes. So this is in memory of Cora, and Cora's mom actually has been a listener since the very beginning of me putting out the podcast because Laura was lost in a boating accident on August 13th, 2018, 2 days before Andy. She writes to me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and has written a little bit. I think she thought I forgot her, but I remember her because she's one of the early people that wrote to me, and obviously having those dates so close together meant a lot. So even though her official sponsorship date is not going to be till September, the fact that that anniversary is right around the corner, I just felt like I wanted to talk about her today. And I also just wanted to read the email that she wrote, and I knew that I would have more time to do that today than in that episode next month. So she just writes, I've been alongside you each year. I don't have the courage yet, but I hope to someday be able to share more with you and your listeners. I've been thinking about what I can do to honor her on this somehow upcoming 7th anniversary of her death. And sponsoring an episode of your podcast feels right. I listen weekly and thank you for the support you've provided from the distance. So anyway, it just meant a lot to me, and I felt like I didn't want to wait and talk about her in the middle or late September when an open episode comes up again when I haven't recorded. So thank you so much, and we're honoring Logan and Michael and Cora a little bit today.
That's beautiful.
So other thoughts, I know. So today's topic, we can talk about today's topic. This was great idea by you, Gwen. So go ahead and kind of introduce that a little bit.
Well, it kind of, for some reason, came up last time, and something we were talking about that I wrote the note, like the dual process model. And that is a technical, term that was developed originally in 1999 and then revised again in 2010 by Strobe and Schutt, which are two social workers. They created this dual process model of grief. And, I'm kind of giving the technical stuff first, but then we'll break it down to what it really means to bereave people, because you guys are living this. You just don't know to call it the dual process model, right? But it's living forever in two realities. And really, we oscillate between the two. And the one side is more loss oriented, where you're have the intrusive parts of grief, you're longing for the old, there's many parts of loss orientation. But then the other side is restoration orientation, where you're looking at, rebuilding or the hope for the future or changing, your identity and growing in who you are. What do we do now? What does our family look like now? And we oscillate back and forth between the two. Now, as in every theory, there are people who discard this theory, right? One of the things that people like about this theory is that it shows that grief is not linear, like there's not stages. It's more that oscillation of just constantly going between the two worlds. And for me, I think the one that we've talked about on the podcast before that I can relate to so much is cursing God and praising God at the same time. Like, I don't like my life, and how did this happen? And this isn't fair, to I'm going to trust you, or, thank you for A, B, and C. To me, I have to laugh because you oscillate between that every second, like every minute. It's so, I think it shows us a couple different things, and I hope people will write in, and I don't even remember here how we find the comments, but I think they come up on the side, that people can write in how grief almost makes you feel like you're going crazy. And I think because part of it is you can be painting a room and saying, I'm going to change the bedroom, but at the same time, you're bawling your eyes out saying, this is unfair and I hate this. Yeah.
I mean, you feel that a lot. I feel that with just even Valeriano's recent wedding and things like that, right? I mean, just feeling so torn and wanting to be there for him and support him. But yeah, just really missing in all of that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there were many points during that night that you thought, you don't want to celebrate one because Andy will never be married. Like, you won't do this for him. So I think for parents, I've heard that's a very hard thing when you want to be happy for the occasion for your living children, but how much your heart hurts that they'll never do this.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that actually just before the wedding. So Eric and I actually walked with Valeriano down the aisle. We were like the first people to walk into the church, and we were just talking, and Eric said, I would have never imagined this, 10 years ago, because obviously Valeriano came into our lives 9 years ago. So 10 years ago, we couldn't have even imagined that. And I said to Eric, I always thought Andy would be the first one, right? Because he was the one that seemed like, he just was more made to be a dad. He just loved little kids. He just loved that. I remember him coming home, getting off the bus in the 5th grade and telling me that this girl, Emma, seemed like a really nice girl to marry. I mean, he just seemed like that would be Andy. Like, he was just going to want to settle down and be a really great dad. So, I just couldn't help but think of that.
Yeah,
that's we're about ready to walk with Valeriano.
Yeah, and
now Valeriano, we've found out too. Actually, a little bit before the wedding, we found out that she's expecting a baby. They're expecting a baby in December, and I mean, even my daughter was like, "Andy would have been such a great uncle." I mean, we're just talking about those things that, he won't be. There won't be an Uncle Andy, but So it's a lot, but it's a joyous thing, and we want to be able to be there, and we want to be able to support them, and every year this comes out. Every year, I mean, we just talked about the anniversary of Andy's death is coming up. The anniversary of Andy's death is August 15th. Valeriano's birthday is August 14th. It is, I mean, that is so hard every year, because I feel so much pressure to try to make that birthday good.
Mm-hmm.
when all I'm doing is dreading the next day coming,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I'm going to ask a very vulnerable question, but I think for the sake of your listeners, I think they've always been able, you've been very honest and connect. When you said, you had these conversations at the wedding or thinking about it, and um, I'm sure there were tears of sadness. Have you ever, even maybe even that day, had tears of sadness, but when the others were around, you played them off as tears of joy? Like, or were you vulnerable? Like, did you let them know you were sad, or did you not?
Um, I don't think anyone knew I was sad about Andy.
Mm,
I don't
okay.
I don't think they did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean my family did. I I got to the church and I had forgotten I brought can't remember. I think I brought the teddy bear, but I forgot the picture, or I forgot the one of the two. I brought one and forgot the other one, and almost panicked. And Eric just dropped us off at the church. I mean, we were at the church 2 hours before the wedding, so it wasn't a big deal. And he turned around and went back and got the one thing that I forgot, because everybody knew that I couldn't do that day without both of those things there. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I think they knew. I mean, we started walking down the aisle, and then they played. Oh, I can't even think of the song they played. Well, it's so funny because so Valeriano obviously speaks Spanish. His wife only speaks Spanish, so the wedding was primarily in Spanish with just a translator for maybe, I don't know, 75% of it. I mean, and not even great translation. So you'd think maybe it would be kind of less emotional, but I'm not expecting. As we walked down the aisle, they played a song, and it was a beautiful song, and it was in English, and it was a song that just made me think of you know all that I kind of lost, and I just started sobbing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everyone thought I was just sobbing because of Valeriano getting married. So I don't,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I don't
I
think.
do.
And the other thing is the vast majority of people at that wedding didn't even really know that Andy existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think Valeriano's coworkers know. Certainly none of the people from the church, none of they don't. Her family might know. I don't know if she's told them, but I was very subtle. We had the picture and the bear just sitting in the front row with us. It wasn't in a way anyone else could really see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Valeriano made a point that to sign his marriage license, he bought a special green pen because Andy's favorite color was green, and he bought
Mm.
it green on purpose. Even though everything in the wedding was purple, everything was purple except that pen. It was green, and he told me, "I'm doing a green pen for Andy." So
Mm.
we did it was very subtle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. But I,
Um, and
I
I just
am.
don't think, and I told the photographer that we're doing a family picture because we've never done one. Since Andy died, we've not done one family
Mm-hmm.
picture. I said, we're doing a family picture and I'm holding a picture, just so you know that
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to happen. Um, so she was very sweet. She was very nice. And they did it when we were ready for the picture. They pushed aside all the bridesmaids. This is the family picture time. You all go, and we're doing this family picture, and then and then they kind of and then they came back in. So it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people that did know were very considerate about it, but I didn't want to make it. I you don't want to
Yeah,
make
I
it about.
do. I do.
Yeah.
But that's where we quietly live in two realities, right? That was my point, is that for others, like you said, you were sobbing during that song, they'll look at you and say, "Oh, she's so touched by this day coming, and her foster son getting married, and oh, isn't this special?" But for you, there were tears of sadness too. But you don't have to wear that out there, but and just like your listeners know, that there are times that you are in a situation where it's perceived that it's all joyous, but you hear the tears and you have the tears or the thoughts, and your family has those subtle or outward conversations without the whole masses knowing how
Yeah.
hard. And many bereaved people have heard from someone else like, I had no idea that day was hard for you, or that that was
Yeah.
even going on. And that's because we're used to living and carrying that grief no matter what we're doing, even if it's
Yeah.
something joyous.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've been incorporating this every day since Andy died.
Almost 7 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why I'm extra emotional now too, right? This anniversary
I
is
do
coming up.
too.
It's August
Yeah.
again.
I do too.
I just every
Yeah.
time August rolls around, it's like I don't know. I just feel
Mhm.
like I just go backwards. I don't know what I do, but it's really,
Mhm.
really hard.
Oh.
Oh, we had somebody write in
Oh.
a comment. We wear a mask a lot, and
Mhm.
whoa, that is right. Don't we ever?
Yeah. Hmm.
We do wear a
And that's
mask.
why, when I read that, my first thought was that's why during COVID, sometimes people enjoyed wearing the mask because you could hide what you
I
were
was
really
I thought the
feeling. Or,
same thing when she said that. I thought the same thing,
hmm.
um,
Hmm.
because it, yeah. I mean, it actually, it's funny because it sort of worked out well for me in a way. So Andy died in August. I went back to work in September, and then I left again in November, okay, of 2018.
Hmm.
And I was did not work. I did not see patients for a year until the next November. I started just coming in and just doing walk-in and just like filling in with walk-in. And then starting at the beginning of January is when I started see my schedule again, and I started seeing patients again. That's January of 2020.
Mm.
And we all know what happened in
Hmm.
March.
Right.
And I had to start wearing a mask in the office pretty much for the next year plus. I don't even remember how long, but it was in some ways beautiful
Hmm. Hmm.
because no one could see that. Because I still was obviously getting very emotional at times. There were still patients that really got me, and I had a
Hmm.
hard time with that. And yet the mask went on, the physical mask went on, and people didn't know. I mean,
Hmm.
you get your eyes a little puffy, and I can,
Yeah.
get rid of that a little bit. It doesn't matter then.
Yeah. Yep. I just, it's so, so loud and obvious to us because we're living it, but the rest of the world, like, either wear a mask literally or figuratively, and we hide it, and they have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, I've got a text group going with a lot of women, and so much of that comes up that they were at an event or somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
they will say to us now, that was really hard and that was tough, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody there that they were with had any idea. And that is
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful thing when you've got that group of people that you feel like you can be genuine and open and honest with,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even when you have to hide it, when you feel
Right.
like you have to hide it from other
Right.
people.
Yeah. Or, one of the things that they say about living in the restoration, if you're focusing on something new, some people say, well, you're denying or avoiding your grief, but sometimes you're just trying something new. Like you're just trying to do something, whether, even if it's not new, but you're going to a graduation or a wedding that you're like, okay, this is what we're doing today. You're not necessarily denying or avoiding grief, but you're just not
Yeah.
bringing it with you to that event. And that's
Yeah.
why some of the people didn't like that, because they're saying that then you're, denying your grief. But I
Well,
think,
and I appreciate that to a certain extent, right? You don't want to
mhm,
shove it away just indefinitely. That's
right.
not healthy for you. But I remember in those earlier days of seeing my therapist, and we would be working through stuff and doing some EMDR and doing some things. And then we get to the end of the session, and she was like, okay, now we're going to put this in a box and we're going to lock it up and put it on the shelf, and we'll get it down next time. Right. So
Mhm,
you don't have to feel like you have to have that box open, processing your grief 24/7. Because
mhm,
guess what? You can't. We
mhm,
can't do that. That
mhm.
you know what I'm saying? That's
Oh,
just
I do.
impossible for you to be able to feel it at every moment. So don't feel bad about needing to put it away for a while you go to work or you go to this event or you do that thing, because it's our bodies, our minds can only handle so much.
Right. Well, I do have some clients, I have obviously most people don't come to me if they want to deny their grief because they won't even contact
Right.
for grief support, right?
Right, exactly.
So
That's true.
I don't see a lot of those, but I mean every once in a while someone makes them come to a grief class or someone says I was supposed to talk to you or my doctor said I had to, but um I do have a lot of people who come to me almost obsessive about doing their grief work where that's all they do 24/7 is they're in a
Yeah.
support group every night of the week, every book they read, everything they do,
Yeah.
they listen to podcasts all day long. And it's like, I had one client this summer, I just said, my goal for you is to live. Like if your grief group took a break, that's okay. Don't like, you don't have to
Yeah.
do that all the time. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, they said they have more hope for their future and they feel more at peace and more restored because they just took a break from wearing it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you know there are certain times you're taking it back. And I know I've talked about
Yes.
this on the podcast before, that when I went back to work, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I knew that Tuesdays and Fridays I was going to work on my grief. That's what I did. I did a
Mm-hmm.
lot of intentional grief work on Tuesdays and Fridays. And when I know that Tuesday's coming and that I'm going to work on that, it made Monday much more tolerable because I
Mm-hmm.
knew what was coming
Right.
ahead. So
Yep.
I think that's why it is very valuable to have time set aside.
I do too. To carve it
Mm-hmm.
out, to say, this is my time. I tell people if I teach a grief class on a Wednesday night, I'm like, you've been here every Wednesday night for how many weeks? You don't have to tell anyone in your life that the class is done. Just take Wednesday nights
Yeah.
as your night. Get in your car, go somewhere, go to a park. I don't care.
That
Um,
is so funny. That is so funny because I had a mom that was in a Tuesday night support group with me, and of course they're just 6 week sessions. And what's
mhm,
funny is that her friend had been in the group, and then she wanted her to be in the group, but she had this Tuesday friend group that always met, and I think they did a book club or something, and it was on Tuesday nights. And so she thought, I can't do support group Tuesday nights because I have to do this other. But it got to the point where she just couldn't handle being in that group. Like it was
mhm.
just too hard for her. So she told them, I'm taking this time off. I want to be in this grief group. I'm doing this grief group. And then we got to the end of the 6 weeks, and she said the same thing. She said, I think I'm just gonna tell them I'm still doing it, even though I know I have the
Yes,
next 3 weeks off, because she didn't want to go back to the other one
yes.
because she was feeling, she wasn't
Mhm,
feeling supported and heard there, and it just was not refreshing and for
mhm,
her as it had been before the death was, right?
mhm. Yeah, I get it. I tell people to do that. And then, like, even older adults, they say, my kids are so relieved that I'm going to this class. It's almost like they know, oh, mom or dad are getting help. So they said, I'm just going to tell them it's still going so that they don't worry about me. Like, I'm still in it. It didn't end. um, she wrote, some days I get so grief tired. Yoga has helped me so much. You and I were just talking
That's
about yoga a few days ago, but
Yeah,
and
we were talking about yoga a few
and
days
grief
ago.
yoga, yeah, just your body feels so much of that. And that's the part about grief about being grief tired, is that oscillating between is exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Like that's your brain is just constantly going. Um, and one of the things we haven't talked about in the oscillation is I would say a huge percentage of bereaved parents that I meet have a hard time not thinking about heaven or the next life
Yeah.
and being focused in this earth, and
Yeah.
you just long for that. Like, people are
Yeah.
counting. I've watched some of your listeners, like on their Facebook page, how many more days they're just that many days closer to seeing their child. Right.
Yeah.
Like every day I
Yeah.
live I can cross that off. So it's the hope of heaven or whatever you believe about an afterlife, or um, the mess of this earth. And the mess of
Yeah.
this earth, not just what's going on, or not the pain that every day causes for being bereaved. It's like, who wouldn't want to go to what's next, right? And that's really hard when everyone wants you to be focused on the wonderful life you have. You have other children, you have you have your partner, you have your house, you have your job. Sometimes that's just not, that
Yeah.
doesn't hold the
Well, and
stock.
sometimes people don't have those things, obviously,
Right.
but
True.
no matter what it is, it seems that everyone wants us to look on the bright side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so even if maybe that is your only child and you don't have a spouse and whatever, but they're still going to come up with something,
Right. That at least you
well, you're
have,
a
at
great
least, yeah.
aunt, or you've got a good job, or
Mhm.
something. They will come up with some sort of thing to make you feel like you should appreciate
Yeah.
what you have here.
hmm And that should
And
just,
if you say things about, that longing to not be here, so non-bereaved people feel like they get nervous about it, they get scared you're going to do
hmm
something, they get almost offended that you would say something like that
right.
and
Like,
not
are we not
appreciate what
enough?
your
Yeah.
life. Yeah,
hmm
it's
Yeah.
hard. That's why it's the only safe place to say that too,
hmm
to say that how you're really
Yeah.
feeling.
Very much so. Michelle said, so frustrating to be bright sided, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Michelle. I 100%
hmm
agree. I've gotten that so much. My dad, I feel like, is such a culprit for that, and I love my
hmm
dad, but I can never, ever, ever talk about grief to him, ever,
hmm
because
Yeah.
he will try to somehow make it have there be some sort of bright side, or,
hmm
well, I mean, I just can't do it, so then I just don't talk to him about anything important, which
hmm
is sad too, but I just don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. I just
No.
can't.
And you
Yeah.
know that, and you can't explain it to them. You just know, like, you can't, you're not heard. You're just not
Yeah.
allowed to be where you are. Um, yeah, that's that's a
I
real
know.
tough one. Yeah. Um, the other piece about oscillating between the two worlds is, in the loss oriented, when you're thinking about what you've lost, it's so intrusive, right, into every
Yeah.
aspect of your life.
Yeah.
But when you're in the restoration, like if you're doing something, you know, different or new, or you're going to an event, um, it can be a distraction sometimes from your grief. And
Yeah.
sometimes we like that. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to go to a movie for 2 hours and not think about what happened, right?
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
which I think is great and super important. I really
hmm
do.
Yeah. I like Carolyn
So
says it takes time. Everyone finds different tools to handle blindsided grief, or the,
100%.
yeah. And what
100%.
she means is
Right?
like when it just attacks you, right? I was going up, I got blindsided and brightsided
Oh,
because
yeah,
we've
yeah,
had
yeah.
both of those.
Right.
Um,
Because it's frustrating to be bright-sided, Michelle, but
yes.
if to handle blindsided grief, yes, everyone just handles it differently. Everyone's on a different time course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why you can't compare grief. You can't do any of that. Even
Mm-mm.
when you're grieving the same person, your timetable may be completely and totally different,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. And, I was just talking at a presentation and talking, some people are quick to recover and some people are slow to recover, like just bouncing back. And it's like some people, s- like to keep anger stewing for a while. And some people are very
Yeah.
quick to forgive.
Yeah.
It's not that either one of those are wrong. It's just the way they are. And I wish people would, um, look at us to who we were before. Grief doesn't really change you. This is how I handle things. This is what I do. Um,
Right. I mean, going back to
I
the anger thing, we've talked about this in the podcast before too. After our car accident, Eric forgave her immediately. For me, it
mhm,
was about 10 months before I felt
mhm,
like I could forgive
mhm,
her. Um, it just took me a really long time to kind of let go of that anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could have done it sooner, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't
Mm-hmm.
do it sooner than that. And I think that's okay.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I know, and I know some people are angry longer than that. I just felt like that was my time to be able to let go of it. But
Mm-hmm.
other people are far different. Eric never had anger ever. He just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, but he just doesn't get angry. He's just not an angry kind of person.
Right. So that's how he was before, right? So this
Uh-huh.
didn't change him. He is responding in the way. And that's why I think when some people either compare themselves or get mad at themselves or other people don't understand, you have to say, but this is who I am. The only example I can think of is, in 2024, the beginning and the end of the year, I had my knees replaced. So one in January, one in December. And I'm a very task oriented, I like to have things organized. And we were hosting an event in December right after my surgery. And I said, you guys know me. And if we're going to host it and I'm going to be disabled, you have to help me. And my friends, my family, yes, we'll help you. That day came. And you know what they told me? Just sit there and relax. What does it matter if it gets done or not? Well, you told me you understood my personality and what was important to me.
Right.
And now
Do
you're
you
not.
know me? Do you
Yeah.
know me at
Do
all?
you think I'm okay with this? And I
I'm
was
not okay with it.
so
And I can't be. I can't just change my personality.
right. And I was so frustrated. But I think that's what happens when someone wants to just tell you to relax or look on the bright side. You
Yeah.
get so like,
Yeah.
really? No.
Yeah.
I
Or to not feel what you're already feeling. I can't just turn that off. You can't
mm-mm,
turn it off. That's just the
mm-mm.
way things are.
Yeah. Um Something else I was thinking about in the oscillation between loss orientation and restoration though is like sometimes we can't it's like it's also something we don't have control over the oscillating in between, and I wish
Uh-huh.
sometimes we could like and make it seem like I said, oh, I would, I'm going to go to a movie and for these 2 hours I'm not going to think about it, but there's certain times like you mentioned, like the wedding, that you can't just turn that off, just like you just said.
Yeah.
And so we're not
You
doing
want to, but
anything
you can't
wrong,
always.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. That
And there are
makes
some times that it just
sense.
bubbles up and you don't think about it. Right?
Hmm.
For example, this last weekend, it was Harbor Days. They have up in Elk Rapids at the lake where we are, they have this event every year, and the carnival comes in and they've got all these things. They have a car show and they have all of these events. And the final event is the fireworks on Saturday night that we go to by boat. So we take the boat, and it's dark, and the fireworks happen, and Valeriano's up there with his new wife Elizabeth. Peter's best friend is up, and we all go to the fireworks. And for some reason, I hadn't thought about it until we got to the fireworks that year that Andy died. We were at the fireworks the Saturday before he died. That's what that
Mm.
was that year. And I remember Valeriano wasn't there. He was 20 at the time. He had just had his 20th birthday the day before. He didn't come up. But the other 5 of us were all crowded up in the bow of the boat, and I had my arms around all the kids, everybody. Like, we're all touching. We're all under blankets because, even though it's August in
Hmm.
northern Michigan at night, it's still cold. And we were
Hmm.
all under blankets. And I remember hugging them all and thinking, enjoy this moment,
Hmm.
because pretty soon you're not going to be able to cuddle with all of them because they're going to be out of the house.
Hmm.
But obviously, I had no idea that, just a few days later, Andy would be dead.
Hmm.
So, as we're trying to, Peter and his friend are laughing, and Valeriano is there with Elizabeth and seeing the fireworks for the first time. And I just keep thinking about that moment, and I hadn't thought about it, right? It hadn't like hit me that all of a sudden I was going to have a grief moment on the boat.
Right. Right.
And it used to, like the first year or two we went, It did. I would think about that every time. But this time, I think I was very distracted by having two other people there and trying to make it fun for
Mm-hmm.
them because neither one of them had ever done that, right? They hadn't gone to the big fireworks show on the boat. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool because there are like hundreds of boats out and it's very
Mm-hmm.
fun. And um, but I didn't think about the fact I didn't think about that moment
Yeah.
until then, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Very
So
much so.
yeah, so that really was living into realities. And if you want to talk about hiding that, the mask again,
I was wondering.
nobody knew. Nobody
Yeah.
knew it bothered me.
Yeah. Now, do you
Nobody
think in
knew that
the
I had tears in
early
my eyes. It was dark. Nobody knew,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Do you think in the early days you couldn't have masked that as well as you could now
In
7
the
years
early days,
later?
I didn't mask it at
Right,
all, and
right.
we
Okay.
we we didn't let anybody go with.
Mm-hmm.
It was just us, and I cried the whole time. You know, the first
Mm-hmm.
year, probably two, if probably
Mm-hmm.
two. Um, that- but
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
this year was
even
just hard.
like I could almost hear your brain going, when did we go back to watching those? Like, there's certain
Yeah,
things that you don't remember when you restored that activity. You don't even know.
yeah.
Like,
I
how
don't
did we
I don't know
go
that we
back?
don't went the next year. I don't know that we did. I mean, the
Yeah.
next year it was crazy hard to be at the lake the whole time. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for over a year, Peter's bed, we moved Peter's mattress into our closet. Peter slept in
Mm-hmm.
our closet for like a year and a half
Mm-hmm.
whenever we went up. So, I mean, did
Mm-hmm.
we go to the fireworks the first year after? I think there's a really good chance we did not.
Yeah.
Um, but but
Mm-hmm.
but again, like you said, I'm trying to remember because I don't remember. I mean, there's
Right.
so much of life that's just so foggy that I just don't
Well,
know.
that's because you're trying to survive. You're trying to figure that all out, and you are living like, okay, what new skill do we have to get to do this? Like, what do I have to do
Yeah.
here? And then just it's just so much. So yeah, you don't remember. It is kind of foggy, and
You know what's funny? What's funny is if I listened to the very first episode of the podcast, which I did, before, like, what
mm-hmm,
is that, a year or two ago, whenever I'd listened to them all, I may have talked about it then because that would have been right then, because that was the
yeah,
week Eric and I recorded the very first episode of the podcast, was the one year, and we were up that week, and it was the week of Harbor Days. So I don't know. I may have talked about it. I may have intentionally gone at that point in time because it
mm-hmm,
would have been about a year. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Now it makes me feel like I should listen again and
No,
see but I don't know that I
yeah,
want to.
right,
So
yeah, and being around my whole family with all the kids is really hard for me. I just think how much my daughter is missing. Sometimes those brief moments just hit. And then she said, hugs to you, Marcy. So I think,
yeah.
all your listeners connect because it's just they're living that same experience. But yeah, those family gatherings where people think, oh, don't you want to be here with all of us? It's so good to be together. But for her, that empty chair, the empty spot, is just so loud.
It is. It is loud.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, really loud.
And I'm just like, oh, some days it just rings in your ear. Like it's
Yeah. And
too
it's just
much.
hard when those anniversary days come. That's for sure.
Yep. Yep. Very much so.
I know we had some questions that I tried to put online, and I
Mm-hmm.
just did it too late, and I apologize
Oh,
for that. I mean, I'm just not in the groove of this. We got all signed up for this last week because they were having a sale, and I signed up for us again, and then I had every intention of posting a lot of questions, and then we were on vacation, and like, I just said, there were extra people around, and
mm-hmm.
we were doing all these things, and of course August and all of that said I'm never doing a live stream the day after I get home from vacation again. But one of the
Understandable.
questions that you wrote, I do want to talk about, and we do have quite a few people watching live. So if people wrote in, that would be really, really helpful. But,
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about where you find respite, right?
Yeah.
You want to just talk
Well,
about that a
just,
little bit
you
and
know,
ask that question again.
well, taking that break and finding respite. So I was mentioning the client that did so much grief work, went to a group almost every night, was always, just involved in grief work. That when I said, like, this summer, can you just take a break and do something that's not grief related? And their first question, what would I do? And this person did experience multiple losses, a spouse and a child at the same time in the same accident. But this person said, what would I do? And I said, well, let's reflect back. What did you used to like to do? And they mentioned an activity that they would go to an establishment. Let's just say it's bowling, and have a burger and have a few drinks with some friends and bowl for a little bit. Well, is that something you can do? Well, I don't know. Do I want to? Do I, and sometimes we find respite in the same activities. Like, yes, I
Yeah.
used to enjoy that so much and I will try that again. But I also tell
Uh-huh.
bereaved people there are certain activities that will not bring you respite anymore or that you just
Right.
can't do. And so they said, well, how am I going to know? And I
You
said, I
only know
think
by
the only
trying.
way, yes.
You
And
only
so,
know by
yeah.
trying.
And they did their activity and brought some of these friends along, and they said it felt so good, and they've scheduled to do it every week for the rest of the summer.
Really?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep,
that's
just to have that.
amazing.
Yeah. Melissa wrote crafting, that
Yeah, and that's
creating.
that's a thing that lots of people do find really, really helpful
Mm-hmm. Yep, very
is doing
much so.
crafts.
Yeah, and I think the
Uh-huh.
previous listener put the yoga, so that's definitely an
Yeah.
activity that.
Oh, and another
Oh,
person wrote into my garden is my rest. Tiffany wrote this. Winter
yeah.
is so rough on me with all the big dates. Being able to plant, and watch the garden grow is like food for my winter withered soul. Oh, that's
Oh,
beautiful,
wow.
Tiffany.
That is.
Yeah.
Yoga bunko group Tuesday nights with my friends. Yeah. Bunkos,
Yeah.
was that like a dice kind of
I think it's
fun
like a
game?
dice
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
See, for me,
Um,
it's Tuesday afternoon mahjong. Tuesday
mm,
afternoon mahjong. I do.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
And
I've always enjoyed games. It's a big thing that I've always liked to do,
mhm,
and that that is still fun for me to do. It didn't feel like that for a while, but it is now. The other thing
mhm,
is like reading. I've always enjoyed reading, and for a while, I felt like if I was reading, I should read a grief book. I shouldn't just
mhm,
read a book for
mhm,
enjoyment.
mhm.
And honestly, a lot of my friends that I have, bereaved mom friends, they read a lot of books on grief.
Mhm.
And honestly, I read a lot of books on grief, but I read a lot of books on grief because I'm interviewing the people that wrote the book on grief. But
Mhm.
most of the time, that's all the grief books I read now is if I'm having somebody on, which I'm interviewing somebody tomorrow. So did I read a grief book this weekend? I did.
Mhm.
But for my own soul, I need to read books that are not grief related.
Yes. Yes.
And although I do find it funny, my husband and I have found this funny that recently, we like pick a show to watch on TV, and there is invariably always someone's kid has died. I do not understand.
I
We decided we're gonna watch Stick. Okay, Stick is on Apple TV. It's like about a professional golfer who's now mentoring this kid or whatever because he was a used washed up old professional golfer. Why is he washed up? Because he had a mental breakdown because his son died. I was like, are
mm,
you kidding me right now? It's Owen Wilson. It's a comedy. And we watched it for Peter because Peter loves golf and he loves Lightning McQueen. Like his favorite movie of all time was Cars. And so I said, it's beautiful. It's your two great loves, Lightning McQueen and golf.
mm,
And of course, there's a dead kid in it. Now, was it still a good show? It still was a good show. But I
I
like
know.
to take that time and not have my grief in it and not feel like now I'm crying when he's having his moments and they're looking back on that, right?
I know. I hung
Oh,
my head because all I do is grief work, and the only books that I read are grief books. And I shouldn't say on vacation I do not read grief books, but Um, when I go to a movie or do something, I don't want someone to die in it. Like I don't
Yeah.
want it to be. I don't want to sit there and analyze on the big screen their inability to cope or their unhealthy coping or
Or the
whatever.
writer wrote that really stupid because the parent would
Yes,
never act like that or
yes, and
something, right?
I'm like, oh please, yeah. Um,
Or they
we've
always want to tie it up too nice and neat and like, oh, right. Yes,
yeah,
I analyze it too. I do every time.
yeah,
Oh,
we've
I
had
know. I had one of my coworkers. There was a movie. I was like a year or two ago. Oh, you have to watch this movie. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And I somehow I kind of knew maybe there was something with this movie because I'd heard about it. And I said, "Is there a dead kid in the movie?" And she goes, "Well, yes, but." And I said, "No, then it's a no. I'm not going to
yes.
a movie with a dead kid in it. That is just too painful for me." She goes, "But it's a
Mhm.
really good movie. It doesn't matter."
Oh my gosh. And the fact that people
And
would
I
even
had to put
say
it
that
that
to you.
bluntly because I was like,
Right.
I'm not. I just don't really think that's
Yeah.
that. And I was, is there a dead kid in the movie? If there
Yeah.
is, then I am not watching the movie
Right. Oh
because
my
I need
goodness.
to have that. But other people, I think, maybe gravitate towards that for like wanting to read grief books, wanting to watch
Mhm.
movies that deal with death or deal with that. And maybe that's the way that they process their grief. But for me, those books and movies are time to take away that I
Right.
can get away from it.
Hmm.
For
But
me.
early on in your grief, you did read grief books. I mean, now
Oh
it's
yeah, I
probably
did.
a
I
little bit
mean, Rare
different.
Bird is
Yeah.
one of my favorites, and
Oh.
like I said, I still do. I still do read grief books, and
Hmm.
and perhaps I don't read other grief books because I have to read quite a few of them just because of
Right.
interviewing
Yeah.
people. So I don't have a lot of time to do a ton of extra ones, or I'd just be reading all the time.
Right.
Right.
And
So I have to
and
have a couple things going.
yeah, and Andrea did ask the question, what is the one grief book you would recommend? And you just said it very quickly. I don't know if she heard, but you said
Oh,
Rare
Rare Bird. I
Bird,
loved
and
Rare
that's by
Bird.
Anna. Is it was
Winston Donaldson.
yeah. Um,
She
I
was on
would
the
highly
podcast actually, like the fourth episode, I think, or
yeah,
fifth or something.
I agree. I think that was one of the best books that I read. Um,
Yes, I
I
love that
mean,
book.
she can email me if at gwen@grief-guide.com if and I could give you a whole list of other ones or if there's a specific topic because there's just too many to answer that. But I do think for a bereaved mom, Rare Bird was very, very good.
Oh, I loved that one. I mean, there
Hmm.
are lots that I have
Yeah.
enjoyed, but I do feel like
Hmm.
for me, that's the one that helped me the most
Right.
and made me feel the least, that it kind of like I'm going crazy. I just
Right.
feel like it validated so much of the messiness of grief. I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of the other books I had read at that time, because like you said, I read a
Hmm.
lot of them.
Hmm.
A lot of them felt too neat to me.
Right.
And
And
I
she is
and
honest and
she's
raw
not
and yeah.
neat.
Mm-mm.
And it's not. And I mean, and honestly, if you enjoy listening to the podcast, you enjoy the messy, so that would probably be a good book for you,
Yeah. Very
right?
much
Because
so.
this
And
podcast certainly gets a little messy too.
yeah. Um.
Oh, and she
We
wrote, we watched Stick to, haha. So
right.
she watched the same TV show. It was a fun show. I really did like the show, but it was just remember turning to Peter and Eric saying, "Really? Again?
That's
Does
funny.
everyone have to have a child die in their TV show?"
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a lot of
Michelle.
other people write comments though. We need to
Yeah.
comment on these.
So Michelle said, going to dinner with friends, occasionally getting back to going to see live music or concerts. And I did this last night by myself. And I think that's a key one too, is being comfortable sometimes just to do something by yourself. I mean, the woman, I can't
Yes.
remember who said about gardening, but that's a very
Yeah.
lone project. It's just,
Yeah, that was
I mean, you
Tiffany.
can garden and craft with others, but man, being comfortable to go by yourself, that's amazing. And then she said, I've gone to occasional comedy show, which is nice because laughter is very much needed. And I agree with that. Like sometimes you just have to laugh. You need a break.
And it's such a great emotion to have that really does help in the grief. I mean, if you can get yourself to
Oh,
laugh, it's just so therapeutic.
yes.
And not just with grief, with all of those kind of negative emotions that you can have. Laughter is just can be so incredibly helpful.
Oh, it is. It's, it's such a relief, just like crying is. I mean, but it's a different type of relief, and that's good for us. Um, Tiffany said my husband put on My Girl for a date night home movie night a few months ago. He randomly reached over, turned it off when he remembered what it was all about. I had to chuckle later on. He was mortified. Isn't
Yeah.
that?
Do you
I mean,
remember that
like
movie? That's the movie
I
where the
do,
child died.
I
Yes.
do. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. And
Um,
then we had or somebody that
America's
wrote
Funniest
earlier
Home.
too. It's hard to watch other people and their kids these days. Happy families on holidays remind me of the old me, and how our family had so many happy times all the
Yeah,
time. So yeah, that's true.
that is.
Oh,
Um,
Marcia wrote America's Funniest Home Videos. That's her
mhm.
respite. There
Yeah,
you go.
that
Again,
is
it's
good.
just some of that kind of stuff that's just a little bit mind numbing. I
Mm,
remember right away watching going on like HGTV and watching those home improvement shows and things like that, because that just
mhm.
it didn't have much of there wasn't much plot, right? It was just
Right.
somebody fixing up their house, or all of those types of those shows were safe for
Safe.
me.
That was the word I was going to use because one of my respites early on in my grief work was to read People magazine. I got it weekly at my house. But back then, it was really only about what the stars were wearing, who was dating who. But all of a sudden, it changed into a news magazine, and they've got a crime section, and they've got all the yuck of the world in it. I, I don't want that. I need
No,
that safe show, the safe thing to read that just doesn't get involved in any of that. So,
yeah,
mhm,
those are beautiful respite ideas. I like those.
yeah,
I appreciate everybody writing in and
yeah. Melissa
thinking
said
about those.
yes, HGTV.
Yep.
Um, yeah. One of, yeah, I just finding things that are safe. I just love that word. I mean, and I have a show that I watch every day. I tape it and it's just safe. And I only watch the first 15 minutes usually, and it's Kelly and Mark. Live with Kelly and Mark. It used to be Live with Kelly and Ryan. Because it's just safe. They just don't go very deep into anything. They interview stars of new movies coming out. There's nothing necessarily political on it. There's nothing necessarily sad. I, it's just
Yeah.
15 minutes of just something that Gwen can go, oh yeah.
And Nancy
Mm.
wrote Big Down Under. I have no idea what that even is. Do you?
It was mind numbing.
Mind numbing. I mean, that's
Okay.
what I felt the HGTV was
I'm
kind of mind numbing.
assuming something about Australia. What would Down Under? I know Below Deck is a show that is about boating and living below the
I
deck
don't
and
know.
what
If Nancy
goes on.
wants to write a little bit more about Down Under and educate us all, that'd be great, because I have no
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah.
But
Um.
it does sound like just binge watching TV can be helpful. Crafts certainly are
Hmm.
helpful. I think too, some like maybe knitting or crocheting or something like that can be helpful. That's something my daughter definitely did. She did a lot of knitting that was really helpful.
Hmm. Well, and I've
Oh,
watched.
LOL below deck. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
below
okay.
deck. Oh no,
Yeah.
that's Melissa wrote that. So yes,
Oh,
below
okay.
deck. I guess that's the show. What is that show? I don't know what that is
Below
either.
deck, I think it is like a fancy yacht, and then it's kind of like the staff and what goes on
Oh,
below deck, like how many people it takes, and just like I don't know. I've never
I don't know.
watched it, but I
Okay,
think
I
that's
don't
what it
know
is.
either. I don't either.
Bird
Now we've
watching and
educated all of you on some shows to binge watch, and
um, it said bird watching and nature,
oh yes,
and
for sure. That's a thing for me too. I
yeah.
have this app, a bird ID app on my phone, and I will turn it on and listen to the birds, and then and it comes up, it will recognize the song and tell me what the birds are. That's
Hmm.
very that I just love sitting on my deck and turning on that bird ID app and having it listen to birds, and me being able to see how many different types of birds are in the area. I don't know
Oh,
why that brings me so much peace, but it really does. So thank you so much for bringing up the bird watching, Lisa, because it's for me, it's not always just watching, it's the listening. It's just the listening to the songs of the bird. I think it has to do with Andy and his singing and how much he loves singing, and I sort of feel like they're singing to me a little bit. I think it's that, but I love
is
it.
is that the name of the app, Merlin?
I think it's the Merlin bird ID. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because they're saying that here on the things. And Lisa
Yeah.
said, I know more about birds now than I ever imagined. But,
Yes.
you mentioned like,
Merlin bird ID. It's an awesome app if you enjoy
mhm,
sitting outside and listening to birds, because then you know what it is always. And now
yeah,
I recognize the cardinal sound just instantaneous, because they have different calls, and I can tell you a lot of the different birds calls and what is
mhm.
singing at the particular moment.
Well, and you're the family, speaking of birds, and you said earlier games, there was that game that you had, Wingspan.
Oh yeah, that's a bird
And
game.
yes, and now my kids are addicted to it. My son absolutely loves it. That was a great recommendation from you.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a great game. It's a great
so
game because
yeah,
it brings my love of birds and love of playing games all
right
together.
together. Yeah.
I know.
Um, we do love games at our house, and my father-in-law, mother-in-law played a lot of cards with friends. And after he died, she wondered if she'd ever do that again. And she didn't necessarily do it with other couples, but she found other widows to play cards with. And we played a lot of games, and it just brought her a lot of joy to have us all around the table and doing something that they love. So um, I think games are a good,
Yeah.
soothing activity as well. Just to sit down and play a game and get off our phones and off the,
And be together. I think
yeah.
just that being
Hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there are times when, my family will play a game with me that it's just for me. And I appreciate it when they do it, because I know it's not that it's uh, helps everybody's soul, but it does help my soul.
Right.
So they do
Yeah.
that for me.
Okay. This is
So
a hilarious one to share. It says shopping at Hobby Lobby is my respite. Julie wrote that can be expensive, but cheaper than therapy. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm glad Hobby Lobby. Yes, Hobby Lobby probably could be more expensive than therapy too,
Yeah,
but
but
you can get some pretty good deals at Hobby Lobby.
and don't ever buy anything that's not on sale at Hobby Lobby, because the next week it's going to come on sale. You just go every week, and then you know that one week the flowers are on sale, next week they're not. So, or whatever. But no, I could be lost in Hobby Lobby many times. Just that, looking up and down at everything. But
Well,
I think,
I go ahead.
I,
I was going
I
to say we
think,
probably have to start tying
yes, we
things up a
do,
little bit.
and that's what I was going to say. What I think, interestingly enough, happened was that we lived into realities. I mean, you were really honest and shared, about the wedding and about the fireworks and the pain and the anniversary coming up. But then the next thing we could, talking about some restorative activities or things that make us, and the laughter. We can do both of those on a grief
Yeah,
podcast for bereaved parents.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I'm very glad we did things in that order. That I talked about all the painful stuff,
hmm
and then we went to what are some things we do for respite, because then it helps me to remember all the things I do for respite. And like I said, I'm
hmm
I'm very glad somebody brought up birds, because honestly, it's a big source of respite for me, which I didn't really think about. I mean, I do think about that, but I didn't think about it in this context on how much peace that kind of gives me.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I wrote down laughter as one of the thoughts for next time.
Yeah.
And I have a few
Well,
ideas
yeah.
already about that.
Okay.
Um,
So Holly wrote here too. I have a camper and have had a whole new family at a campground, campfires, breakfasts, dinners with 5 of their families. Oh, that's beautiful. That's
yeah, that
beautiful.
is.
And Andrea's
And
asking how often we do the live streams. And it should be going back to every 6 weeks again, I think. I mean,
mhm,
usually that's what we've done is
yeah.
every 6 weeks.
Hmm.
So that will be the plan again. Oh, and
Hmm.
Michelle wrote, it's interesting to think about what is a respite for me. Thank you for that.
Hmm.
I am glad that we spent a lot of time talking about that
Hmm.
today, because
Yeah.
that is really important and something that we haven't delved
And
into probably enough. So
the word that Holly used, like, we now have a camper. It's a whole new family at the camp. We met a whole new
yeah,
family at the campground. Just like what part of restoration is, like I said, some of the same activities and some of the same things, but sometimes it is going out on a limb and doing something new and different. To say this is
yeah,
something we've done since they died. It's something just different. So that's,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
That
so
was fun.
let's see. Our next live stream should be in 6 weeks. So let's do
Mhm.
that. Let's just announce that right now because I'm not. Then we can commit to that. So I think that should be the 8th, probably, right? I'm sure I have it written down. Or no, I have the 16th. Is it the 16th?
I don't have anything written down.
4, 5, 6. I think so. I think so. It is. I have it on as 314 because we're 308, 314. So that would be a podcast. Likely will be on Monday, September 15th. I
Okay,
would
I'll write
guess.
it down. Thanks for clarifying that.
Let's just try that, or Tuesday the 16th. Usually we do a Monday or a Tuesday, whichever is better for us. So we obviously haven't totally decided, but it's going to be right around then. So look for that, Andrea. And I will not be on vacation the week before that. So hopefully I will come up with some nice questions. If anyone has any ideas that they feel like we should talk about at a live stream, shoot some over. That would be great to get some suggestions. But I do think laughter, that's a good topic.
I think so too, but we also books. We haven't reviewed books in a while, and maybe just some of the people you've interviewed and some of their books to revisit, but also other books and maybe some books that are written by non-bereaved people but are very helpful.
Yeah,
so we haven't done that either.
Talk about too.
Yeah. So I have a couple ideas written down. So I mean the
Glenn
laughter
always
one.
has great ideas written down. Love it. Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.